to build my practice and sustain it over the years I've been in practice. And I see people that are using some of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today achieving extraordinary results. And let me just share with you that for the last 38 years, we've researched, we've taught, we've coached only the strategies that instigate growth. In this webinar, I'm going to outline several key strategies, and I call them secrets because they really are, because either people don't know about them or they're not using them, okay? That have proven to predictably create growth and increase net profit in the current environment, okay? And as we go through this, I'm going to show you some data of a young dentist in Louisiana, 1 year, just 1 year in this model, in this method, and her results. So, what are secrets anyway, okay? You know, I looked it up because I thought so few people seem to know about it that it had to be a secret. And sure enough, that's one of the definitions. It's hidden or only known to a few people. It's also not acknowledged, okay? You know, in other words, people don't talk about it. You know, it's not like in the public domain. It's not things that people spend time working at or spend time trying to understand. So I didn't know what else to call it but a secret, okay? So the contents are based on the research and application of these strategies. But we've also had, in all these years of working, we've had significant help from our clients and our mentors in proving that this works. A lot of the key people have stayed connected with the center. They're not just fly-by-night people. They stay connected to the center. In fact, TJ Bolt is in the other room right now as a mentor and a long-term, over 20-year client student, and he's become one of my closest friends. So his success proves that this works, okay? So if your profits are declining, you're in what is commonly referred to as the red zone. The best way to beat the competition is to stop trying to beat them and do something different. Stop trying to compete with every other dentist in the universe and do something different, okay? So here's my point of view. This is what this webinar is based on. You've got to get in a game that you can win. Okay? You either have to create a game or you have to get into some game that gives you a chance to win. Healthy practices grow, unhealthy practices don't. And there are only a few, not dozens, not multiples, key strategies that instigate growth, and they are not external marketing strategies. They are not external marketing strategies. There's things that you can learn to do, that you can take control of and instigate your own growth, okay? And I thought I'd put this in just to think about this. If you're overweight and you're sick and you're hypertensive or pre-diabetic, you have a choice. You can take pills or drugs and live with their side effects the rest of your life, or you can modify your lifestyle. You can eat mostly fresh vegetables, fruits, small portions of fresh fish, chicken, and meat, and minimum alcohol, and exercise a minimum of 45 minutes a day. And if you did B, okay, also minimizing your sodium content to less than 1,500 a day, and minimize your fat and sugar. The interesting thing about this, 66% will continue to do A, and 33% will choose B. If offered the opportunity and to understand what they need to do and be trained on it and understand what it's going to do, what the outcome of either is, the difference is those that accept B are going to live 20 to 30 years longer, 20 to 30 years longer, and die of natural causes. So you have a choice, and every one of your patients has a choice, okay? So I don't think, and I grabbed these pictures, this is what happens to millions of people that neglect their systemic health and neglect their oral health, okay? I'm pretty convinced that these people and millions more didn't really intend to end up like this, but because they didn't have a plan to be healthy, because they didn't work on it, they ended up like this, okay? So here's a question, and it probably should be a poll question, but it's not. So it's something for you to think about right now. Are you open to doing something new, to something different? Okay? So I want to suggest to you that when we talk about growth at the center, we're not just talking about growth in revenues. Real business growth is defined, not by me, but defined by a 10 to 20% growth in net profit each year. Real growth is not defined simply by growth in revenues. It's defined by growth in net profit. A very close friend of mine, whose name I'm not going to present on this webinar, got involved with the center's work in 1988. He retired this last year at age 52 with $5 million. $5 million, okay? So let's look at this. I want to put to bed the issue of production is going to get you where you want to go. And I'm the only one, the only voice that speaks about this. The rest, everybody else is trying to get you to buy more technology to take your overhead up so you have to produce more. Now let's look at this. If your overhead is 50%, to net 50,000, you need to collect 50. If your overhead is 55%, you have to collect 111 or 11% more to net the same. If it's 60%, you got to work another day a week. You got to produce 125 or collect 125 to net the 50. At 65%, the wheels start coming off. You have to collect 142 to net 50. That's working 2 more days a week. At 70%, we become kind of out of control. You have to collect 166 to net 50. 166 to net 50. That's $66,000 more to net 50. At 100%, you're just dead, okay? You have to do twice as much. You have to collect twice as much at 75 than you did at 50. So your challenge, like every other dentist in practice in existence, is to break out of traditional dentistry where there is bloody red competition and create an uncontested market space that makes the competition irrelevant. Your challenge, like every other dentist in practice in existence, is to break out of the traditional dentistry where there is bloody red competition and create an uncontested market space that makes competition irrelevant. Instead of competing with other dentists, dental corporations bill and drill and bill, and other disease care dentists, you've got to break out and differentiate yourself from the pack. Okay, Laura, let's get started with that little introduction. Can't hear you, Laura. Can't hear me? We can't hear her. Okay. So, somehow Laura's having trouble with her sound, so I'll just go on, okay? So there are 4 levels of practice, and I've introduced this to you many times. If you're the first time on a webinar, it may be your first time seeing it. A level 1 is a fill, drill, and bill practice. It's mainly treating disease. It's mainly managing the disease. Okay? Level 2, it's what we're taught to do in dental school. Level 2 is what we get taught to do when we take advanced technical training, whether it's online, whether it's at an institution, whether it's in a study club. It's primarily about treating perio, TMJ, occlusion, implants, cosmetics, something. Okay? So we get more training. And then the focus is more and more on finding implants to do and finding mouths to put veneers on and finding patients that have joint problems and finding people that need periodontal surgery. Okay? That's pretty much what it is. Now, just so you understand, 95% of all dentists are in these two categories, and it is bloody red. Okay? A level 3 dentist is the best term we can come up with is a biologic dentist. And this is the kind of dentist that is as concerned about the cause of the problem as the solution of it. In other words, this dentist is looking at the risk assessment of the whole system. Okay? The teeth, the joints, the muscles, the bone, where the teeth are placed, how they interact with each other, the occlusion. Okay? So the level 3 dentist really focuses on the oral system. So the migration from a level 1 to level 2 is pretty much about training. The migration to a level 2 to a level 3 is about transformation in thinking. Okay? In thinking. Okay? And the level 4 is just an extension of the level 3, but the level 4 dentist is taking into consideration the whole person, the person that has the problem, their lifestyle, their attitude, their concerns, their education, what they do for a living, how important their health is to them or not. It's developmental from 3 to 4. So 84% of all dentists, at least, are level 1 and 2. 16% of all dentists are somewhere in the level 2, partly level 3. There's only 2% of dentists that are truly level 3 and level 4. There's a lot of dentists that are really trying to get to that level. But many of them want to get there, but they don't know how to get there. Okay? So the level 1 and level 2 versus level 3 and level 4. Let me describe a little bit the difference of an environment. A level 1 and level 2 dentist reacts to disease. A level 3 and level 4 is proactive to help the patient prevent disease, stop the disease progress. A level 1 and level 2 thinking is primarily about short-term results. Level 3 and level 4 are primarily about long-term results. In a level 1 and level 2 practice, the patients are passive, where the dentists and the hygienists are busy taking the disease away from patients. In a level 3 and level 4, the patients are active as co-participants or partners in the prevention and treatment of their problems and disease. In a level 1 and level 2, patients are adversarial, they're combative, they're competitive. In a level 3 and 4, relationships are engaging, they're cooperative, and partnerships are formed. Level 1 and level 2 is a negative environment. Level 3 and level 4 is a positive, life-affirming, health-centered environment. In level 1 and level 2, patients drift downhill. They continue to get that worse over time. Okay? Patients in level 3 and level 4, patients are partnering for their health and well-being. In level 1 and level 2, it's emergency, it's failure after failure after failure. It's broken teeth. It's problems with occlusion. It's problems with perio. It's problems in the joint. It's failure after failure. In level 3 and level 4, it's success after success after success. The climate, the environment of these two practices is so different they don't even look the same. They don't even seem like the same kind of business or practice. So let's understand, in the world of everything, there are A or high performers, okay? There's an exceptional group of people that are just outstandingly exceptional. Then there's also another 14% that are high performers. These are what we call A's. We want to make this as simple as A, B, and C. 68% of any group of people, be it patients, be it dentists, be it optometrists, physicians, cardiologists, I don't care what. Teachers, 68% are mediocre and average. They're in the middle. And 16% are low or poor performers, basically losers. Okay? They're losers. Okay? So the idea, the secret of growth is to get your practice into the green zone. Okay? Keep this in mind. 90% of all dentists net 172K plus or minus 42K a year, regardless of gross revenues. That's where 90% of all dentists are today. Okay? So we believe that 84% are in the red zone. Okay? The question is, and it's not a poll question, but it could be, are you in the red zone? 66% are in a no growth red zone. No growth. Okay? In other words, they're on a plateau. There's another percentage, almost 20%, that are in the declining zone. Okay? They're working harder and harder, and their net is going down. Okay? So some are stagnant, and others are declining. Okay? We have to remember, we all have to remember that nothing in the universe stands still. Okay? Level 3 and level 4 are thriving because they're different, they're distinctive, they're remarkable. Okay? Rather than compete, they innovate. Okay? Innovate something new, something different. Okay? Innovation is the key to getting in the green zone. Okay? Innovation is the strategy that embraces the entire system of your practice. How you handle money, how you handle time, how you schedule patients, whether people are moving forward or not, whether your staff is engaged enough, whether your staff is involved in the practice. So when people get into this zone, okay, this plateau, we start out, we grow, we get up to a certain point, we get in this plateau. This is the zone of confusion, complexity, competition, commoditization, disorientation. Okay? And then again, if they decide, you decide, or anyone decides, they decide that they want to grow again, they start a new growth curve. Most of us, if we've been in practice for any length of time, we go through this cycle 2 or 3 times in our career, or we get stuck and then we just go downhill because things change. The society changes, the values change, more and more competition in different areas. So what we know is there are these stages of business growth and development. There's startup before you are in practice. There's entry when you start in practice and you start moving. There's growth. There's maturity on the plateau. There's either renewal or more decline. Okay? So before you begin, before you open the doors, you have to have a cash flow system with a budget to know what your expenses are going to be before you open the door. You have to plan for revenues and a budget. You have to have a time system. And you have to begin to think about how are you going to organize what you do to deliver value to your patients. Okay? And then you start to grow. Okay? But without a cash flow system, you really don't know what your break-even point is. So you're focused on growth, but you're not focused on profit. Okay? Growth is where and when, okay, you focus on the market, you focus on sales, you innovate quality and a service experience. And real growth in any dental practice is 10 to 15%, 10 to 20% increase in net profit per year. Now, obviously, if your overhead is 65%, good luck, okay? So your overhead has to come down. You have to control your expenses. If you control your fixed costs, then it only takes 10 or 12% of increased production a year to increase your net 10 to 15%. But dentists don't know that because they don't have a cash flow system, okay? And they get sold a bill of goods by the consultants and dental economics and everybody else that pushes stuff at people. Then what happens, you get in maturity and you try to grow and you try to go, you're looking for strategies, you do marketing, you do all these things, but you start to lose energy. Your profits are declining. Your debts are increasing. You're not able to pay them off. You have negative emotion. And when that begins to fill up the environment, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to grow. Renewal is the point when you institute new energy, new people, new or innovate new strategies so that you don't continue the decline and you can start that new curve and grow again. Okay? So, Laura,
I am here.
Oh, great.
I am
Okay.
here. I'm so sorry about that.
No problem. Would you do the first poll question, please?
Yes. So here's our first poll question. Those of you who have been with us before know that we do interject a few questions. We do this so that we can plan for future webinar topics, and we also want to know that what we're presenting to you tonight is relevant and useful, so thank you in advance for participating. First poll question is, what kind of practice do you want? Choose A or B, A being the higher volume, repair and disease-oriented, insurance-based, or B, the lower volume, long-term health-focused and relationship-oriented practice. We just really want to know a little bit more about our audience and what you're looking for out of your practice. So we're actually going to follow this up with a second poll question, but I'm going to leave this open for just a moment. We have about half of our audience has voted. It would be wonderful if we could get just a little bit more. And right now, 100% of our audience is saying they want the lower volume practice, so we know that we are speaking to people that are interested in this type of material, so thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close this one so that I can open the next one quickly for you. And the follow-up question to that is, if you chose B, which 100% of our audience did, how committed are you to your choice? So there's three options. Not committed at all, and this is, might be relevant for you if you don't even believe this is possible in your community. Committed being, yes, I definitely want something better than what I have, and the strongly committed folks who say, you know what, I am willing to do whatever it takes to get something different than what I currently have. So if you just go ahead and pick one of those. We have about 61% have voted, so thank you very much. And would you like to know how it's breaking down? We have 6% not committed. We have 22% committed. And 78% are strongly committed. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. I think everybody has voted, and I'll give it back to you.
The reason, thank you, Laura, that was great, and thank you all for participating. The reason we put this up here is I do believe with my whole heart that the number one characteristic of people that are high achievers and get what they want is commitment. I mean, if you're not committed, if I'm not committed, I'm just not going to get there, okay? It's just not going to happen. So I think that's really, really good. So stay with this, and we'll see where we can take you today, okay? So here's some of the secrets, okay? These aren't the two main ones, but I want to share this with you. Number one is the type and quality of relationships you form with your patients, okay? And the idea is when you do that, you change your game, okay? And the idea when you change that, you work to develop as healthy an organization as you possibly can. And with that organization, you develop as healthy a group of people, a team as you can. That's mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy, okay? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically healthy people so that you can focus on health of your patients, longevity of whatever you do, beauty, aesthetics, and function, okay? Because people want different things, okay? So the dilemma that we have here, the dilemma that dentists have today, you've invested, maybe it's not 400, but I hear many have invested $400,000 to become a dentist, okay? Then you go out and you buy a practice for $300,000 to $900K, hopefully not more than that, but I've met people that invest that much, okay, to buy a practice. Then those of you that have taken advanced technical training, you find that you're spending $200,000 to $300,000 in advanced technical training, okay? Then if you're modern day dentist, modern day young dentist, you find it difficult to practice without a CEREC and a cone beam and a $70,000 laser. So you can see we have made a heavy, heavy investment in just being able to be a dentist and be in practice, okay? And we do have to invest something in all of these things. And the question I have, and it's not a poll question, but for you to think about, how much have you invested in yourself, in your own knowledge and your own skills and your own abilities to build a practice that works? Okay? So what dental economics and consultants won't tell you, number one, they won't tell you that the only economic reason to be in business is net profit. There's no other reason, economic reason, to be in business, okay? They won't tell you that running a business, any business, on an accounting statement is a one-way ticket to nowhere. They won't tell you that, okay? They won't tell you that believing that technology and technical training alone will grow a practice is fool's gold. They won't tell you that investment in technology and investment in advanced technical training alone will grow a practice is fool's gold. They won't tell you that, okay? They won't tell you that trying to sell something to everyone was fashionable in the 1980s. No distinction, no differentiation, just bring in any warm body into your practice and everything is sold to a dentist based upon the fact that will increase your production, right? They won't tell you that, okay? But the times have changed. We're not living in the same world anymore, okay? So here are the two major constraints that hold the secrets, and I mean secrets, to your practice growth. Number one, your current fixed costs against which you compete every day, which must be reduced to increase your net profit. As you dance off and buy all this stuff, eventually you compete with the costs, the fixed costs. That's your major competitor, not other dentists, but you're actually competing with your overhead. Your second secret is your lost sales opportunities that you compete with every day trying to win the minds, hearts, and trust of your patients. We compete with everything else people want to spend their money on, but we also compete with our inability to help patients say yes. So to get out of the red zone, you must, and I emphasize must, okay? You must understand that in order to grow, you have to find, engage, connect with, and convert patients whose objectives match your objectives, your strengths, and your skills, so that you can partner with your patients and you can become together trusted partners. If people don't want what you're offering, they simply won't buy, as evidenced by the fact, this is a fact, a proven fact, that dentists have an average acceptance of treatment that is less than 40%. 60% or higher are saying no, don't keep their appointments, don't follow through to complete treatment, and for sure, don't refer. So it's as simple as A, B, and C. A patients are your growings, okay? Those are your trusted partners. You're growing them, and they are growing you. These are the patients that you've built a trusted partnership with. They grow you by buying your best services and accepting treatment. They grow you by paying you in a fair and timely fashion. And they grow you by accepting treatment, completing treatment, and referring like-minded people to you. Those are your A's. Okay? Your B's, those are all the people in the middle, okay? The 70% of the public that is in the middle. These are your growables. With the right relationship, in the right environment, with the right process, they will, over time, become A patients. In other words, this group of people have potential, but it varies tremendously how we or you as a dentist interact with that segment. If you don't have processes to help people learn and grow and evolve, they will be stuck. They'll act like C patients. Okay? Growth-oriented dentists, that is, those of us that are level 3 and level 4, have a plan and a process to develop and grow their B patients. They have a plan and a process. C patients, by definition, are ungrowables. No matter what you do, no matter how nice you are, no matter how much you care and want to be good to them, they simply don't care. They won't buy. They're only emergency patients, and they will only be, and they're the downhill people, and they will take you downhill with them. Okay? They have a bad attitude, rotten protoplasm, don't show up for appointments, don't follow through with treatment, don't pay their bills. C patients are a one-way ticket to nowhere. So the secrets of growth are these. You must continue to lower your capital costs of investment. Without a plan of action and a complete cash flow system, this won't happen. You must focus 80%, I'm saying 80% of your time and efforts on your growings, which are your A patients, and your growables, which are your B patients. To grow a practice, you've got to find and form a relationship with patients who want to learn, they want to grow, they are proactive, and they want to become healthy. They want to improve, they want to get better. A practice, a level 1 and 2, focuses on disease, which is failures, and sickness care is a place no one really wants to be, no one likes, and everyone tries to avoid. May I remind you, people want no dentistry or as little as possible. I figured that out in my second year in practice. They also want to spend as little of their money on dental health care as possible. Most patients want to be healthy, but they don't know what or how to do it because they haven't formed a relationship with someone that will help them become healthy. They've never made a decision, a choice. They've never been given a choice to become healthy. So I'm talking to a doctor and his wife on the phone. And his wife is running his office. He has been on the plateau in a disease care practice for 14 years. He's a highly trained dentist. He's a good guy. And here's what she said. If I never come back to this office again, I'd be happy. Now imagine that kind of an attitude and that negativity in an environment, and that's exactly what happens when you get into a level 1 environment. Okay? So as a dentist, you trade your ability to create health, beauty, comfort, and function to improve or enhance your patient's quality of life for money. That's what you do. That's what I do. When I step outside of this room and into the operatory, that's what I do. So finding, selecting, developing, and keeping patients who want help and will accept help, that is your A and B patients, is the most dependable, and predictable way to grow and should be your primary focus. It is the primary focus of level 3 and level 4 practices. In recent years, my top clients have concentrated on the top tier, A and B, patients as a major growth strategy with tremendous success. Trusted partner, when you put this strategy in place, it gives you a crucial advantage. We're often surprised by the results which defy traditional practices taught by the masses of consultants. Our doctrine of growth through trusted partnerships has evolved, as all strategies will evolve, through practical application. So the one primary secret of growth, if I had to do one thing, this would be what it would be. Concentrate your time and efforts. Focus your practice on systems and structure and organization, your people, everything you do on your A, your growing, and your B, your growable patients. Level 3 and level 4 dentists focus their efforts. 80% of their time and effort is spent on A's and cultivating and developing B patients. I remember when I was first in practice, and I was in Dubuque. And every day, at the end of the day, my last hour, because I stopped seeing patients, active patients at 4 o'clock, my last hour was always spent with either a new patient, indoctrinating a new patient into the practice, or with a review of findings. And many times in those days, it took me a lot longer to articulate and to listen than it does today, although I still spend a lot of time doing it. But I would call home and say, you know, I'm going to be late tonight. I'm not going to be home as early. I might be home at 5:30. I only live 5 minutes from the office because I'm building our future. Working on B patients to have them become A's. And that was a Midwestern blue-collar town. Okay? I've been in practice for more than 38 years and work with one-on-one with several thousand dentists. Since we only work with dentists that are engaged with us and committed to growth, our results are predictable, but they're often spectacular. So here's an example of a real live dentist. I'm hoping it's going to come out. There we go. No, excuse me, I got to go back. I don't know what happened to that. What happened to that? Laura? Well, I don't have the data. I had the data, and I don't see it here. I'm going to try it. Oh, here it is. Okay, good. A bad color. I apologize for that. So I'll change the color because I knew it was there. I put it there. Okay, so now we can see it. Okay, it's not going to be in the color that I wanted it to be, but you can still see it. Okay. So this is. She started in 2014, and this is at the end of 2015. Her overhead when she began was 69.53, almost 70%. 1 year later, her overhead, her documented overhead, was 56.53. That's a minus 13%. That's a big gain. Okay. The revenue when she began, because we have to do two things. We have to control our costs and we have to grow our revenues. As she began to apply a few key strategies in her practice, she grew her practice from 555 to 756. That's a 43% increase in revenue. At the same time, reducing her costs by 13%. Before we met her, she was doing average, like an average dentist does. Remember, I told you they do about 170,000 plus or minus 42,000. So her salary was 162. At the end of her first year, her salary was 262. Her net profit when she began was 31,552. At the end of 1 year, her profit had increased to 131,000, which is a 316% increase in net profit, a 62% increase in take-home income. Totally, it amounted to, if you add up her salary and her profit from 2014, it was 194, excuse me, 491. If you add it up in 2015, it was 262 and 131, which is 383, which is almost 100% improvement in net profit. Now, do we expect her to get a 100% improvement in net profit every year? No. But we do expect a 10 to 15% increase in net profit, okay? So let's talk about questions that determine growth. What are your values? Here's a question. What kind of a person do I want to see in the mirror in the morning? Do you want to work in an organization whose value system is unacceptable or incompatible with your own? If you do, it condemns a person to both frustration and non-performance. So we get an opportunity, a great opportunity, to build our own little organizations who represent the values that we have. Values instigate growth. Whether your practice should be run on short-term results or long-term growth is a question of your values. Whether your practice should be disease, sickness, failures focused or should be health, wellness, success focused is a question of your values. Whether your practice is a high volume, running people through, doing a little for everybody, or is a lower volume, focusing on each individual person and developing individual risk assessment, a preventive plan, and an individualized treatment plan for each person is a question of your values. What are your strengths? You discover your strengths, and the only way to discover them is to really do it with feedback, to review. What am I really good at? To help other people help you. What are you good at doing? You know, how do you develop those strengths? And then concentrate on your strengths. And create an environment, create this game that I talked about where your strengths can and will produce results. So discover where you have intellectual arrogance and it's causing disabling ignorance and overcome it. Cultivate the desire to learn. Cultivate, don't ever say, and I have never said this like I felt like I know everything, okay? Don't ever say that you're done learning, okay? Far too many people with expertise in one area are contemptuous of knowledge in other areas and believe that being bright is a substitute of knowledge. Okay? Taking pride in such ignorance is self-defeating. We all need to learn certain skills and abilities that are normally not developed. That's the difference between B dentist and A dentist. So how do you learn? Okay? Schools everywhere are organized in the assumption that there's only one right way to learn, and that's the same for everyone. The reality is some people learn by taking copious notes. I'm one of those people. I never read a book that I don't underline it. Then I take extra notes. I never go to church that I'm not taking notes. That's me. That's one of the ways I learn. Not everybody learns like that. Some people learn by reading and reading and reading. Okay? Some people learn best in a one-on-one coaching or tutoring environment. There's some things that are best taught in that kind of an environment. Okay? Some people learn best alone. Others learn best in a group setting. Okay? We're all different. We have to find out how you learn. Research suggests, a lot of research suggests, it actually states, but we're going to say suggests, that you learn best in a positive environment that lifts you up and by teachers or mentors who have already achieved what you're striving to achieve. There's not a tennis coach in the world that wasn't a tennis pro. There's not a golf coach that isn't an excellent golfer. There's not a music coach that isn't an excellent musician. I mean, there's not an airplane instructor that isn't an excellent pilot. It's the way things work. If you want to learn something, we have to learn from those people that are already excelling at what they're doing. Okay? And most people in the management, communication, sales arena, they aren't dentists, okay? In a positive, healthy environment of optimism and hope, that's where we learn best, okay? When you're provided correct, that is truthful information, together with the right support, we need that support for feedback so that you can develop your natural skills and abilities. Because they're natural doesn't mean you have them, they need to be developed. Do you structure your practice? We know from MIT and all the research that's been done there since the 20s that the structure of anything influences its behavior and the behavior determines results, okay? Were your systems and structures in your practice developed by traditional consultants or the seat of your pants, okay? Are your systems directed? Is your structure directed at developing a level 3, 1 and 2, or level 3 and 4 practice? If you want, as you said universally, you want more to move towards a level 3 and level 4, but the only way you're going to get there isn't because you want it any more than I got there because I wanted it. It's a matter of how do we develop, what systems and what structures do we put in place that guide us there. Is your team totally engaged and on board with what you're trying to create? Are your patients engaged and involved in growing your practice? These are all vitally important systems and structures. So how do you perform? Okay? Too many people work in ways that aren't their ways, okay? And almost always guarantees non-performance. If your values in your heart tells you that you need to be in a lower volume, higher quality, relationship-driven practice, and your practice is otherwise, you won't perform nearly as well when you put your values to work and you focus on what matters most to you. Maybe even more important is the question is, what are your strengths? Your way of performing can be slightly modified, but it's unlikely that it'll ever be completely changed. Okay? You don't take somebody that wants to run around like a chicken with their head cut off and make them a low-volume, high-quality, relationship-driven patient or person. They want one or the other. Okay? So where do you belong? A small number of people know exactly where they belong, a very small number. Most of us, especially the highly gifted people, don't know really where they belong until they're in their late 20s and mid-30s. We kind of have to have baptism by fire. We almost, like with me when I started, I found out where I didn't belong before I really started moving to where I felt I belonged. So what are your values? What are your strengths? How do you perform? Then you know where you belong. Once you know your values, once you know your strengths, once you know how you perform or want to perform, then you know where you fit. Okay? So in most cases, as in mine, we often determine where we don't belong before we determine where we do belong. Okay? Yes, you're a dentist, but this is the way you should be doing it. Okay? You know, I'm saying this is the way I should be doing it. Okay? You figure that out. And when you figure that out, you have real commitment to make it happen. Okay? Successful careers aren't planned in advance. Successful people develop when preparation meets opportunity. Because if I'm not prepared, I don't even see the opportunity. Okay? Because you know your strengths, you know your method of performance, and you know your values. What determines how we behave? If an organization doesn't have values that determine its behavior, then every day is going to be a crapshoot. Every day is going to be different. And predictable growth will be difficult, if not impossible. Several core values determine the direction and speed of growth. Values are converted into standards that we live and talk with each person every day, no exceptions. So for me, I can only say what mine are. I'm not suggesting to you that these should be yours. But number one, that everybody knows that ever walks in to my office. They know, number one, because I tell them this, I'm going to do worthwhile work. Whatever we do must be worthwhile to your patients, as we provide them with long-term preservation of their oral system and contribute to their health, well-being, quality, and quantity of life. Okay? We're passionate about what we do and why we do it. Our passion is to help our patients become as healthy as they choose to become. Okay? We don't manipulate them, but we give them choices. Our first priority at the Schuster Center is to increase the quality of life, the net profit, and wealth of the dentists we work with. I think the example, just one example, I could show you hundreds. That one example is typical of increasing net profit, quality of life, and wealth of the dentists. What determines how we behave? The second is fun and fulfillment. Okay? The second standard. We want to enjoy our work and create a meaningful experience for everyone, our patients, our team members, and myself. We want to come to work every day and enjoy what we do and who we do it with. We spend the majority of our waking time at work, and we want to experience peace and enjoyment. Yes, we talk about that with patients. Yes, we do. Okay? The third is we want to be profitable. In order to succeed and grow as a practice, we must be able to pay our bills, pay our taxes, pay our team fairly, and myself fairly as well. We want to save and invest for our education, to buy the best materials, pay our team fairly, and save for our future. We have to be profitable to sustain ourselves so that we can continue to render a worthwhile service in a positive environment for the greatest good of everyone. The greatest good of everyone, and of course, that includes you. So what should your contribution be? Given your values, given your strengths, and your way of performing, how can you make the greatest contribution to the highest good of all parties concerned? What results have to be achieved for you to make a difference? Whenever you plan to do whatever it is, make a plan that covers 18 months. Don't do it for a month or a week or 2 weeks, and be clear and be specific. Okay? Hopefully, okay, the main question should be, how can I achieve the results that will make a difference in the next year and a half? Because we're looking for long-term, sustainable results. Okay? First, the results should be difficult. They should stretch you, but also be within your reach. Don't set goals so far that are impossible to reach, because that'll sabotage you. Second, the results should be meaningful. They should make a difference to everybody concerned. Okay? Finally, the results should be visible, and if at all possible, they need to be measurable. From this will come a course of action, what to do, where and how to start, and what goals and deadlines should be set. And thirdly, the instigation of profits. Okay? Our first priority to anyone we work with is to instigate growth and profits. I've outlined some of the key strategies that instigate growth. The most important key to you is your desire, your motivation, your commitment to learn, to improve, and get better. Without that, nothing's going to happen. So, maybe Laura can instigate that poll question, Laura?
I sure can. So those of you that have been with us before know that we always offer some sort of an evaluation or a phone call with Dr. Schuster as part of your webinar, and that's really to take the information into real life and into your practice. So for all of our non-alumni who are on the call today, if you are committed to growing your practice and you want to learn more about where you are right now, we would schedule that call with you. I'm saying non-alumni because our alumni who are participating today should be able to do this on their own with the tools they already have. So if you have not been through the management program and you'd like to have your profit potential profile, just let us know, Doesn't mean that you're going to do any of our courses or any of our coaching. It just means we're going to give you a picture of where you are today. So if you are committed to your future and you want to make some changes, this is the first step. So go ahead and just let us know which one of these applies to you. You can also text us at that number that I have up there. And we want to thank you for being with us tonight. I'm going to leave this open just for a few moments. We will be having another webinar in a few weeks, so go ahead and look for those invitations. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I hope you got a lot of value out of the information presented, and we hope you have a great evening.